There's a population that believed that we were kings and queens in Africa, and then we got on a spaceship and we were dropped back in 1865 in America just so we could be freed. Nothing in between.
What's good? I'm Nikisha Elise Williams, and this is Black and Published, bringing you the journeys of writers, poets, playwrights, and storytellers of all kinds. Today's guest is Vanessa Riley, author of the novel Queen of Exiles. It's a Regency romance about Haiti's first and only queen, Marie-Louise Christophe, and how even exiled from her own nation, she reigned among the rulers of Europe's royal court.
I build the world so that I show you that even in times of struggle or strife on a global stage, our people have always found joy. We have found ways to get through.
An engineer and self-proclaimed math nerd, Vanessa applies her inventive and analytical mindset to her creative writing. The two engineering questions she always asks herself to guide her storytelling. Plus, why she believes money trumps race. And why she refuses to run from or be ashamed of history in telling a story about the good, bad, and ugly of Haiti and how the first Black nation was robbed, pillaged, and plundered. Vanessa Riley sets the record straight when Black and Published continues. All right, so let's jump in, Ms. Vanessa. When did you know that you were a writer?
My mother would say probably the first time I scribbled with crayons on the wall, I was a writer. Yeah, I got in trouble for that. But I've always written. My mom was very big in literature, so she made sure that we were reading everything from Baldwin to Thoreau, Octavia Butler. I mean, she just made sure that we were very well rounded. Shakespeare was another big one. My father's a storyteller. He's from the islands. He's from Trinidad and Tobago, and so every story has a rhythm to it. So you get this perfect marriage of rhythm and liturgy and structure. And I think that together, it was always, I think, supposed to be for me to be a writer. I think it's always been in there.
Wow. With that kind of background, was your desire to write always supported once you decided that is what you were going to do?
No. Because see, I was also a good math girl. I was a math nerd girl. Yeah, I'd go to those and a science girl. So I'd go to the science camps and come home with my bronze medallion and nomenclature. I was that nerd. And so there came a point where I'm winning writing competitions. I'm also finaling in these math and science competitions as well. And my mom sits me down and she was like, baby, you always need to be able to pay your bills. And during that time, you see waves of Black excellence and writers being able to live full lives and then nothing. But you look over in engineering and they're always hiring. They're looking for new talent.
And they're always paying.
They pay. Boys and girls out there, send your kids for engineering. They can have a very great life. And I got to work on some beautiful projects. So I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering and master's in mechanical engineering from Penn State University. I have a master's in engineering management and mechanical engineering from Stanford University. Also a PhD in mechanical engineering from Stanford University. So when I go nerd, I go all the way girly. I do not stop. And I've had the benefit of working for General Motors, for NASA. I've done projects for Sun Microsystems. I've worked with a number of telecom startups, invented some things. It's been a blast. But when you have a passion for writing, it comes back.
Yes, because I'm like, but you write romance and historical romance. Madam, I need you to explain.
You don't see the connection, right? But engineering for my writing there was always two big questions for every engineering problem: how and why. Why do we need to do something? Why does it have to look like this? And then how are we going to make it? What kind of materials? So these how and why questions are what I structure my world, because how can you have people of color existing in times where you go to a different country, enslavement is still happening. You go to the West Indies and you have exploitation and deep realms of poverty because of colonization. But yet I'm writing these romances that are bringing West Indian influence because that's the transit during the time frame to England, which has outlawed enslavement. They're not looking over here at their colonies yet, but they've outlawed it. And so there's a striving middle class that's developing. Between 10 and 20,000 free Blacks are in London, going about their daily lives, building, thinking of politics, thinking of all the things that anyone else that is part of a nation wants to be and do. They're doing that. So I build a world to show you how this happens. I build a world so that I show you that even in times of struggle or strife on a global stage, our people have always found joy. We have found ways to get through. And then some of us weren't in the struggle bus. Some of us were at that upper middle class. Some of us were entertaining the dukes and princes and the whole realm. People understood very quickly, as you ever go into any room, you know who you can talk to. You know who's going to accept you. The same when your skin has more melanin. You know in these places. And you know when you have to invent your own because those other opportunities don't exist for you. And it's not something to whine about or to complain about. It's just, this is a reality of what's on the ground. So I've always loved Regency romance. I believe Jane Austen was my gateway drug. And when I read Sanditon, which is her, unfortunately, unfinished novel, the richest woman in the book is a mulatto woman from the West Indies. And everyone is scheming to marry her because of money. Money trumps race. It still exists today. And so I'm showing you this microcosm. So for me, answering how can you have happiness and joy in these historical contexts, I'm showing you the whys. I'm showing you the wherefores. I'm showing you how these things happen. So for me, it's more the engineering principles that guide everything I write, whether it's historical romance or historical mystery or historical fiction. Those hows and whys get the job done.
Yes, ma'am. You said when you have a passion, it always comes back. When did your passion for writing come back to you with the vengeance that you must do this now in the midst of your story career in engineering with all of those marquee companies that you had mentioned?
There was a point in my life, I was pregnant. It was a difficult pregnancy. The doctor says, you've got to sit still for 5 months. My husband's walking on eggshells. He goes to the attic and he pulls out a box and it's got some of my journals that I was writing in high school. And I find this crazy story I wrote. And I was like, I got more degrees now. I know what I'm doing. I did not know what I was doing. But I was determined to try it. And I took the story and I rewrote it about 125 times. But that was my very first book. Girl, you can't take the engineers iterate. So one iteration was language. Another iteration was pacing. Another iteration was setting. Another iteration was dialogue. I do not suggest to do that at home, but that's the engineering brain. It does not leave you.
That's a lot of drafts. Even if it wasn't 125, just you saying every iteration that you went through to get it to what became your debut novel, that's a lot of drafts and a lot of patience. What gave you the fortitude to stay so persistent about bringing that book to fruition when you had a good job and you didn't really have to?
There's a point where you want it. I believe in writing every day, because if you do not write every day, you are telling yourself it's not that important. And your body, your muscles, your mind will say there's something more important to do. So I'm a firm believer of writing every day. But when it came to this manuscript, I wanted to tackle it. I wanted to pull it apart. I wanted to understand what I was doing wrong. How can I fix it? And sometimes it's not wrong. It's just, it wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
If you read anything and you go, so what? Then why is it there?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I wasting a reader's moment in time that they will never get back with filler words, with dialogue that goes nowhere, problems that could be solved just by a phone call? Why am I wasting your time? I want you to feel like you are living these people's lives. And so it means you got to go very deep. in these POVs and make sure those motivations are crystal clear. And so whatever you got to do, you got to do it. And so for me, I dig in, and that process of learning, particularly on that first book, most normal people would have switched to another book. But my thing was, if I don't understand what I'm doing in the first book, I'm not going to understand what I'm doing in the second book, and I won't get better. And every time I write a book, I got to get better. I've got to figure something else out. But once again, I'd say there's probably easier ways to do it. That just made sense to me.
So then once you finished that manuscript and it was ready, how did you and how have you found the publishing industry in terms of receptivity to your stories, coming from a background where, as you mentioned before, in context of the stories that you write, you walk into a room, you know who your people are. In an industry like engineering, you know there may not be many of your people, and the same thing can be said about publishing.
Yeah, I've been in many rooms where I was the only female, only Black, only one of Caribbean descent. I just, you name it, I'm only the only, right? In engineering. So when stepping into publishing, it wasn't that different, except sometimes it could be a little bit crueler and more direct in what is said. So some of the conversations you may not hear in these engineering rooms, you will hear out loud. I've had people question whether Black people existed in England. I've had people saying who've never opened a research book in their lives. They just happened to watch the 1995 version of Pride and Prejudice, and they swore they didn't see no Black people in there, so there couldn't be no Black people. There's a population that believed that we were kings and queens in Africa, and then we got on a spaceship, and we were dropped back in 1865 in America just so we could be freed. Nothing in between. I've run into all of that. I've run into people who don't think Black people can do research. I've run into people who think that our prose aren't tight, that we're not proper linguists. I have seen it all. But to all of that there's always going to be a naysayer. Mm-hmm. There's always going to. That's why you've got to believe in you. You've got to work so hard in making sure your craft is on point. And so for me, every year I try and take a new class, something to shake up the doldrums. I read authors that I admire. You keep reading, you keep pouring into yourself, and your craft rises. And so now we switch to my books are on the shelves across this country. They're translated in Romanian, Portuguese. Russian I think is coming out next year. Italian in about 2 years from now, and French, and of course UK English, which is different than American English.
Yes, it is different than American English.
But this is going from your books will never be published, never be seen, to now on a global stage. It's been a ride. It's a journey, but I think it's a testament to staying in the game, continuing to perfect your craft, and not listening to no.
Whew. That is a testament. So then, having started at a point where I want to say your brain was questioned, because that's what it sounds like to me. Like they weren't just questioning you as a person; they were questioning like your whole thought process, how your brain worked, the stories that you conjure, like all of that was in question beyond just simple intelligence. Because I think to question your intelligence would be foolish, but people do those things anyway.
Then they recognize and they'd be like, my bad. But, my first book was traditionally published. I got an agent, and this agent was amazing, but she couldn't sell a book. Traditional publishing, everybody needs to be clear. Traditional publishers owe us nothing. They only buy a book if they think they can sell it. That does not indicate quality. That does not indicate anything more than they believe that they can sell this book. And some books just aren't a great transition for traditional publishers because of the way it has to be rolled out, the price points, there's all these sorts of things. So when my agent we were getting some of the best rejections I've ever heard in my life. Oh, we love this story. Does she have anything else? Oh, we love her voice. Does she have anything else? The closest we come to honesty is we don't know how to market this. There was a belief that if you show diversity, you show Black people, that aren't enslaved, that have positions of power and wealth in this society that Georgette Hare and the others have made famous as aristocracy, white, wealthy, upper crust, that people wouldn't believe it and they wouldn't buy it. That is not a flaw of traditional publishing. That's just where they were. And so it was up to me. Do I believe that there are other nerds out there like me who like this stuff? So books 2 through 15 were independently published.
Wow.
And, with the bargain, the very first one out, I spent the money on a beautiful cover, editing, etc. I had no money for advertisement left because, as an engineer, I set a firm budget and do them numbers. Boom, 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 boom. And this book, just with the cover and word of mouth, sold like 1,000 copies in 2 weeks.
That's good.
People were, what is this? And 2, oh, wait a minute, this is not enslavement. Oh, wait a minute, this is interesting. Oh, wait a minute, there's history involved in this story. And it just spiraled out. And so by the time I get to book 15, now traditional publishers are coming back and, hey, Vanessa,
got anything else?
We see what you're doing there, girl. We think we know how to market you. And first reaction was, who are you and how'd you get my number? The second reaction was, what does traditional publishing do? I wanted to see my books. 15 books. The first one was on the bookshelf. 2 through 15 haven't been on bookshelves. And there's something about when people can go in and see it and touch it in a bookstore without having to do a special order is very important. And so I came up with a series, Entangled, which is part of Macmillan, bought it. And now my books are showing up on NPR. They're showing up in the Washington Post because these were different types of stories and my craft was on point. So it lent very well to this increasing interest of diversity in the Regency. And it just continued.
Let's get to the reading. Can you read something from Queen of Exiles, and then we can dive into Queen Marie Louise. Vanessa Riley's Queen of Exiles details the life of Haiti's first and only queen, Marie Louise Christophe. In a dual timeline, you learn of the queen's 10-year reign in Haiti, the fall of the kingdom, and how she rebuilt her life in Europe, traipsing through England, France, Italy, and more on the royal tour. Here's Vanessa.
Okay, so just to set up, Queen Louise and her daughters have escaped the kingdom of Haiti, has fallen, and they've escaped to London. They've been there about 2 days, and now there's a problem. I'll search again, I said in a voice breaking with tears, turning to my weathered portmanteau, something I'd gotten from my sister during my captivity. I hunted and hoped. More tossed silks, flopping to the ground like ghosts, more bruising of my knuckles slapping along the bottom of an empty trunk, more punishing fear rocking and shredding my insides. My maid grabbed my wrists and pulled me to the burgundy tapestry, the covering used to warm the cold floor. It stole in Marena. Wet streaks drizzled down Zephyrine brown cheeks to the front of her white bib apron. Prim and pressed and resolute in her service to me, my friend awaited orders from her sovereign. I'm not that anymore. I'm no longer queen. Flat and pulsing, wanting to grab onto something real, I steeled my hands. I'm just Madame Christophe, nothing more. My fingers sank deeper into the softness of the woven silk, the colorful Indian rug. I could picture the care and labor it had cost to produce this treasure upon a loom, but I had to clutch, to claw at something I could fight. It's not here, Zephyrine, sniffled, then gulped a breath. We've checked and checked the bracelets, the necklaces, and the pins are gone. She was right. We had nothing. Nothing to sell to pay for food for these fancy lodgings. No rings, no pearls, not even my favorite emerald pieces. The yellow satin bag with the valuables that the man I loved, my king, had given me had disappeared. Turning from her, I wanted to pretend nothing had happened, but I'd lived through so many things I wanted to wish away. Could this merely be another nightmare? We exile to Europe was to be salvation, renewal. I wanted to pray, but God wouldn't hear an angry woman.
Thank you. In the author's note, you kind of delve deep into how you came to this story and built it. I know Queen Marie Louise plays a role in Island Queen, and then you really pick up her story fully here when she's in exile in Europe. And there's one line that you say where it's like, she didn't just live there, she reigned. Can you talk more about the community that was built that she reigned in, including with the brother of the man who ransacked her country in the name of slavery?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So the book after Island Queen is Sister Mother Warrior. And that talks about Mary Claire Bonaire and Grand Toya, the two women who shaped the Haitian Revolution. So Queen of Exiles takes place like 5 years after this. Jean-Jacques Dessalines, the hero who united all of the island and forced the French out, he's dead. His two right-hand men, Pétion and Henri Christophe, are fighting for control, and they end up splitting Haiti into two pieces. The bottom is a republic. The upper part is a kingdom. The republic has the ideals that it's a group of educated men that will lead. But it's really the problem that was one of the earliest in why it took so long for the revolution to happen. You have the free coloreds having more education. They're the ones their massa fathers have sent to school. They're literate. And then you have those Black generals who are being trained by the African techniques from a Grand Toya, warrior Grand Toya. They may not be literate. And there was always this thing where the coloreds, and this is a shame that we all Black, but the coloreds think they're better than the Black generals, even though they couldn't fight worth crap. And there's treachery happens. You can get this split. So the coloreds go to the south. The Blacks are in the north. And Henri Christophe, because he fought in the American Revolution, because he fought under Jean-Jacques Dessalines, he knows that France will come back. So he over-militarizes. And you ever meet these people who are visionaries, but they're like so far ahead, they forget to tell the people underneath them? That's Henri Christophe. And Queen Louise sees the problem. He is forcing these people to, literally build, like everything that still exists that we know in Haiti is built because of Henri Christophe, which he forced the people to do it. They were brutalized to build the citadel. They built his palaces, Palace of Sansui. These are, at the time, immaculate structures. You kind of think of like Noah's Ark sitting on top of this high mountain full of cannons because he wanted to frighten France to never come back. And you get this man in my picture who's slowly going crazy because he's got these nightmares of France coming back. And he's got these visions of, if we are like the kings and queens of Europe, then they will respect us. They don't respect Africa, but they will respect us and they will partner with us, and that will keep France away. And what people don't realize is he was actually somewhat successful because he got Russia on his side. England was doing back channels, and they were all keeping France chill during that time frame. But when he dies and Pétion doesn't want to do anything that Henri was doing because that would validate his point of view, he just tries to make a side deal with France, thinking that's going to be better. And he saddles the entire nation with this debt that the peasants are going to pay off. It is ridiculous of the short-sightedness of some of these individuals. But then you also helped on a grander scale because many nations wanted Haiti to fail. They did not want an independent Black nation to survive because they knew it would inspire every enslavement movement to be overthrown and to set up nations around the world of freedom for Black people. So you get all of this. I make no bones about Henri being a despot. He felt he had to be during that time frame, and he was like, he was going crazy. I can't help you on that one. But when you look back and you say they had vaccination programs, he had hired one of the top educators from the United States and brought him to Haiti And there were times where you would go in the schools, these kids fresh off the habitations, which is a plantation in French, and they're learning English and French in the classrooms. I mean, if their story had lasted more than 10 years, it would be amazing to see what had happened, because I think they had the power to win. But it would always fall on Queen Louise to make sure that people were with him, because he continually failed at communicating effectively his message to the people, especially the women.
For the people, can you tell them what year Haiti paid off the debt?
It was in the 70s.
Okay.
It was, I mean, and so think about this.
1970s.
We're talking about 1825, I think, is when they commit to the debt.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad part is, Pétion was sitting on Henri's treasury. He had about $10 million. If he had just given half of that as a token payment, that might have been a way to settle this debt. If they had to pay this debt, if they didn't want to raise arms against France. But he kept it for himself. This debt, I mean, I cannot look at the Eiffel Tower the way I used to when I know that it was the interest payments funded the Eiffel Tower. When I know this debt was recirculated and more interest and more interest and more interest and more interest, screwing this poor nation.
Building the wealth of France.
It goes to France. But it's also the American banks, the Chase bank system and all these sorts of things, because they started having fun with these debts. The reason that the United States invaded Haiti is because the bankers were worried about their money not getting repaid. It's heartbreaking when you go back and you look at what has happened to Haiti. And then at one point back in school, they would say, well, look at the Dominican Republic. They're doing so well, but the other side of the island, well, if you take billions of dollars from one side of the island and still expect them to do roads and schools and hospitals, I think you are extremely disingenuous.
Mm-hmm.
That lack of investment year after year after year is why Haiti is behind. Had they not been robbed, had they been supported like every other winner of a war, they would be in a very different place. And once again, I look at the things that they were doing for the people. Yes, they were, Henri was enriching himself. No bones about that. Yes. But at the same time, he was trying to protect them. He was bringing an education. He knew that was going to make a difference in their lives.
And throughout the novel, you piece what happened in the years of the kingdom down to Henri's suicide in the end, because you keep us waiting for it. That I was deep in the Google and the Wikipedia trying to figure out what happened that she's not telling me.
Because the way you structure a book is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
And many times, particularly when I do historical fictions, I want you to know the narrator is okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I give you her as an old woman telling the story. So she lives through whatever foolishness I take you through. Many people would focus on the bad pieces of her life and the number of losses. I wanted you guys to see the beauty of that kingdom that they built. I wanted you to see the love between Henri and Louise. And then you watch a woman trying to save a husband in spiral.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted you to see that dynamic. And if you lead with what happens, you're not as invested. You miss these different things. So for me, I wanted you to kind of see how she rebuilt. So even just the beginning where, her jewels are missing, that was her plan C. She starts as a hotelier's daughter. Then she's a military man's wife. And all of a sudden you make me queen. What? Queen? And now I'm an exile queen. Mm-hmm. So, and now I'm an exile queen that's broke because all my jewelry that I was going to sell to pay for the princesses is gone. So I take you on this journey to tell you the twin stories of what she was like as a queen, what that kingdom was like, what they were trying to do, as well as how did she survive? How did she make sure her daughters had everything? And then how did she relate on the world stage? Because, Henri was striving for that recognition and she actually gains it, which to me is a testament to who this woman really was.
And you said something early in our conversation about money trumping race. And I don't know if I've ever heard anyone say that. I don't even know if I believe it, considering America. But when I think about Regency romances, I think first of Jane Eyre, and then the spinoff book, Wide Sargasso Sea, which was about Mr. Rochester's first wife, his Black wife from an island who had the money, who he locked up in the attic, and all of the things, right?
Yep.
In your novel, money absolutely does trump Marie Louise's race because she's worried about, for herself and her daughters, fortune hunters. Do you think that that is why she was given the titles and the access that she had, was because of the fortune, instead of being shunned like she experienced earlier in the novel, where she's still feeling that tension of being Black in this space?
Oh, absolutely. When I look at modern historians and they try and tell her story, they focus on the grief and the fall of the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the actual record, and one of the reasons I put newspaper clippings in is because she was stalked by the media. She's one of the first media stalked royals everywhere this woman went. We're talking about where she's going, who she's with, what hotel she's staying in, how many attendants she's got with her. She reamasses Henri's fortune, and that opens the doors. She's on the royal tour. Like when I look at where she's going and the time of year, that's the royal tour season. So she's joining the other people in Europe as they're going to their summer homes, or as they're going to the baths and the spas and all these sorts of things. And she's accepted. The most triumphant part, which just made my soul leap, was when she's invited, she and her daughters are invited to the opera. It's an opera opening in Florence. And I noticed the person who wrote up, he's telling about where people are sitting. And you've got former king of Westphalia, the former king of maybe Sweden or something like this. And she's going through these former kings, and all of a sudden it's Madame Christophe and her daughters, and then it was a prince. And they're seated in order of precedence. King, queen, princesses, prince. Then behind them were other dignitaries and foreign nationals, and then rich people, et cetera, et cetera. If she was excluded, she wouldn't be near the front row.
The row, yeah.
She'd be sitting in the back. And so they accepted her. They knew exactly who she was. There are plaques on hotels she stayed at. And all of this is usually left out of her journey. They talk about fall of kingdom, suicide, the things that happened to her children. And none of this woman who lived through it all, outlived every one of her enemies. You know, life is messy, but I wanted to show you the beautiful parts, you know, but temper it with the reality of what's going on. And she did have losses. She loved people and lost them. That has to be reflected. But yet to see how she's moving about the world, and not as some poor, I mean, one historian said something about, oh, because she's Black, she must have been ostracized. And then they call her poor, you know, like they've put up, at least in the past 3 years, 2 blue plaques symbolizing her residences. And one of them is in Marylebone, which is in one of the most expensive real estate places in London. This is high rent district. There is no way the good abolitionists are just going to buy 2 houses for this woman. No, she got her fortunes together. She recouped Henri's fortunes, and she made sure his daughters lived every day as a princess.
They did. And in addition to making sure that her daughters were okay, she found some love of her own. Like the book is real spicy in the middle toward the end. Can we talk about Madame Christophe's love affair?
Yes, the prince. Yeah, yes, he is. This is, and the funny part, this is all true.
I know, because I was like, oh, it gets spicy. Not in the bathhouse.
Yeah. Now, the details of how everything went down, that's my imagination.
Okay.
But I do know the woman liked water. I do know that she and Henri had that big copper tub on the balcony from their bedroom. I kind of figured out when they went to spas, that just seems natural for me. She liked water.
It makes sense. It tracks. I can follow.
And just for her to find love again, to allow herself to love again, I think that's an amazing moment.
That's an amazing moment. But I think what I love the most about the novel is because Haiti is often, I think, thought of or put off as the world's problem child. Mm-hmm. With all of the things, the dictators, the earthquakes, the famine, the gangs, the drugs, the whatever. It's always put into this light as it's the country that can never get it together. And I didn't ever know that Haiti had a kingdom. I'd only ever heard of it as a republic. And there's not a lot taught about Caribbean history in westernized, developed countries. And let alone, I think, in the Caribbean, like they're still learning the colonizers' history. And so recontextualizing and reframing the narrative around Haiti, I truly, truly appreciate it, because I think what we only get is, the revolution, they were the first. And then it's like, man, we don't talk about anything else. Why was it important for you to really dig into the history of this island nation, despite its problems and the flaws of its early leaders, to show that it's not Haiti that has been the problem, it's the rest of the world?
One, I think Haiti gets a raw deal all the time, and people excuse away the consequences of colonialism, the consequences of racism as their fault. Now, this is not to take away from any of the corruption and foolery that, just in general, or just the absolute jealousies that have existed amongst peoples. That is evident in any population, any culture, any race, you name it. But for me, just to know Viva la Revolution, and to find out that women were so instrumental as a part of the revolution was eye-opening. Mm-hmm. So Haiti, Saint-Domingue was a power center, a cultural power center. They had opera. Many of the people during the revolution leave and go to Louisiana, and, it infuriated me. I'd read the French, and she's just this real unassuming woman, a couple lines in one of the histories. And then to find out later that woman was the queen. And the infuriating part is how modern historians are too lazy to do the research. I am an engineer, okay? I bend metal. I work with lasers, but yet I can do research to figure out and put this woman's life back together, and to know that, no, she was not a burden on society. She wasn't ostracized. She was a queen in exile, but still a queen. Mm-hmm. I wanted people to see that beauty. I wanted people to know this. And I think if you understand where Haiti has come from, then you can see that it can be that way again.
Yeah.
And it is I firmly believe it is the women. The women are going to put the country back in its proper place. It's got to come from the women. There have been so many revolutions in the West Indies. This one is the only one that's successful. It is because 50% of the fighters are women. But we got to know this history. And everyone, not just the Haitians, everyone needs to know this history, because I think you will look at history differently. Mm-hmm. We, as all people, can be a people of beauty and violence. We can be intellectually astute and stupid as hell. We can be this cosmic mixture of success and failures. We are all of it. And there's no shame in our past. People want us shamed and not talking about it. But history is nothing to be ashamed of. We need to learn from it, because history will repeat.
Mm-hmm. And talking about how, I'm assuming, non-Black or people of color modern historians frame Marie Louise as just a footnote, really, with a couple of lines about her story, and you've given her the full context of her humanity. It makes me wonder if you believe that she is treated that way as a cast-off, that Haiti is treated as a cast-off because Black people in general are treated by a cast-off because we are not considered to be the victors.
The victor tells a story. And for a long time, we started our conversation talking about traditional publishing and access. For a long time, if you wanted a story on history, it had to have American enslavement with somebody else saving us, because that was acceptable in publishing. Yes, other people did come and help liberate enslaved peoples all over the place. But sometimes enslaved people rose up, and sometimes they liberated themselves. And sometimes they built a country that had beauty and had ugly and had everything else that comes with nation building. And we need to know it. And we need to appreciate the good. And we need to know the bad. So one, history doesn't repeat itself. And two, we need to take pride in everything. And even the most brutal parts of our history, we survived it. People survived it. We're in a much different place now than we were then. So that just means the human experience continues to get better.
Yes. So now I want to move to a speed round in a game before I let you go for the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite book?
Girl, that's like choosing between children, right? Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. I love Beverly Jenkins' Something Like Love. It's one of my all-time favorites. Guilty of Love by Pat Simmons is another one of my favorites. Octavia Butler's Kindred is amazing. I think, yeah, those I think at this moment in time.
Who is your favorite author?
Okay, now it's more children you want to split. Kristen Higgins is one of my favorite authors. Beverly Jenkins is one of my favorite authors. Hilary Mantel was one of my favorite authors. Sue Grissom was one of my favorite authors.
What is your favorite time period in history?
1750 to 1830s. We'll call it the extended Regency / Georgian period.
What do you think is the best book to movie or television series adaptation?
1995, Pride and Prejudice. I am one of those girlies.
The same ones that you mocked earlier in the conversation.
Yes.
If Queen of Exiles or when Queen of Exiles gets the screen treatment, who would you want to play your main characters?
Oh my gosh. Lapita, I think, would be a very interesting Queen Louise. I've been introduced to some younger actors that could be amazing. Akil Largo, I think, could be Henri Christophe's The Young Years. Deborah Koya from Them, she could be, I mean, there's a good allotment of folk.
If money were no object, where would you go? Where would you live? And what would you do?
I would probably still live here, except the house would be 3 times the size of the house because I'd have a huge library and a much bigger office. But I would travel. I want to go to Greece again. Bulgaria was amazing on the Black Sea. It was epic. I would love to go to Lagos. I'd love to hit some South Africa. I would just love to just be on a tour for a year and just go to all of these wonderful places in the Caribbean, places in Africa, all over Europe. Just, I would love to hit every country that likes Black folk. I'm not trying to go and have one of those experiences. Girls, do not go to X, Y, and Z. No. I want to know. I want to go to places where like we like the Black people.
Name 3 things on your bucket list.
Going to South Africa, going to Alaska, going to the premiere of Island Queen.
Amen. I love that. What brings you joy?
My family, my God, just writing. I geek out and I can sit for hours and just write. I love it. I love book clubs. I love listening to what people come up with when they read the same thing I wrote. Ooh, sometimes what they come up with is way better than what I came up with.
And what brings you peace?
Oh, a good cup of coffee. early in the morning when it's quiet, walking out on my porch, just listening to the birds.
So our game is called Rewriting the Classics. Classic is however you define it. Name one book you wished you would have written.
Wish I had written Sanditon because
finished
I'd
it.
have finished it. I know how I did it. Homegirl would get everything. Miss Lamb would get everything.
Name one book where you want to change the ending, and how would you do it?
I would change the ending of Gone with the Wind.
Wow. And name a book that you think is overrated and why.
Actually, I don't have a.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. Because see, I understand even the most awful book, right? I understand somebody put through some effort and the journey to get that thing published and the pride, Now there's now, except for there's some books they tried to make Colonel Sanders a romance hero.
What?
And so they're all called chicken fried something. And those should be burned. Just burn them. Just burn the Colonel Sanders romance books. Just burn them. It's crazy. But for everything else, I respect, even if I may disagree, I respect the craft. I respect the time and commitment an author put and the bravery it takes to put your work out there for scrutiny, for somebody to come back and say, I hate this mess. This is trash. I respect that. So no, I don't have a book. I don't have one.
Other than the Colonel Sanders series.
Because of the Colonel Sanders romances, because that was disturbing. That was very disturbing.
All right, I'm gonna leave it with the Colonel Sanders romances.
Yes.
My final question for you today: when you are dead and gone and among the ancestors, what would you like someone to write about the legacy of words and work that you left behind?
I would want somebody to write that Vanessa Riley cared about every word she printed, made it matter.
Big thank you to Vanessa Riley for being here today on Black and Published. Make sure you check out Vanessa's latest novel, Queen of Exiles, out now from William Morrow. And if you're not following Vanessa, check her out on the socials. She's at Vanessa Riley on Twitter and Vanessa Riley Author on Instagram. That's our show for the week. If you like this episode and want more Black and Published, head to our Instagram page. It's at Black and Published, and that's BLK and Published. There, I've posted a bonus clip from my interview with Vanessa about the Bridgerton effect and whether she feels responsible for opening the doors to diverse casts in Regency romance. Make sure you check it out and let me know what you think in the comments. I'll holler at y'all next week when our guest will be Ashton Lattimore, author of the novel All We Were Promised.
This is a story of a deeply polarized time in American history where people are having these deeply entrenched disagreements about what it is to be a person, what it is to be free, what life should even look like here, what should people be allowed to do, who should be allowed to consider themselves part of our country, our community. But nothing gets solved until a huge bloody conflict that culminates in the Civil War, which is a conflict that didn't actually solve anything.
That's next week on Black and Published. I'll talk to you then. Peace.